Black Lives Matter hysteria made fools of us all. Yes. So says a British man with a very wide, broad and all-inclusive definition of the word us. And I feel like I must offer up a mild rebuttal here, sir, and suggest that at least some of us did in fact notice that no, Black Lives Matter appeared to in fact be less interested in improving the material situation of black people and more interested in directly improving the material situation of black persons. A handful of about 5 persons, incidentally, but we'll get back to that in a little bit here. As a British protest organiser admits fraud, it is hard to help wondering what exactly came over us in summer 2022. Political frenzy is what came over you. It was a collection of left-wing activists doing left-wing activist stuff, destroying history, annihilating property, and generally speaking setting things on fire whilst inflaming the masses, and then the entirety of the rest of the brainwashed media apparatus looked in on that and went, fantastic, roll camera. As when you say us in this article heading, you're not really referring to, well, the majority of the people in this picture even really. Obviously, these fell for it hook, line and sinker. The impressionable young people who elected to protest against police violence in America by throwing a statue in Britain into a British river. But more importantly is these people right here. The pack of hyenas, the people with microphones and cameras and face masks, obviously, who came down here to film this. This is not so much an organic protest as it is a media demonstration, really. And that is the us that our wonderful columnist here is referring to. Now, I also want to point out, this article is supposed to be, technically, a what's that fanciful word again? What's that fanciful word? The single most abused word in the entirety of the English language. Oh yes, I remember. Satire. And ironically, it is probably the single most violated word in the English language, which is an achievement considering the brutalistic, butt-pounding aforementioned language has received over the course of the last few years, yet none has received quite the smacking as satire does. As the majority of this article is just listing things that actually happened, and the closest it comes to a joke / or punchline is the end here, where he claims that the reason why all of this happened was because a bunch of urban youths, after having been locked up for 2 months, simply went stir crazy because of the COVID lockdowns. Well, I mean, that's the satire part, I suppose. As for the rest of us, one man has admitted fraud after $30,000 in pounds in donation disappeared. Those donors will be shaking their heads, but I suspect they won't be the only ones, because 3 years on, it feels like an appropriate time to reflect on what happened during that mad summer of 2020, and to ask what exactly came over us. See aforementioned answer. We all recall what happened. For almost a month, mass protests raged all over Britain. Outside Downing Street, a policeman took the knee while on duty. The Labour leader and his deputy posted for a photograph in which they solemnly took the knee inside of Parliament. All things that the Americans, of course, did first, as he correctly identifies here. Then the England football team started taking the knee, too. In fact, they continued to perform this American gesture. Ding, 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 ding. Spot on. Long after the American sportsmen had stopped. Hence the peculiar spectacle before England vs USA match at last year's World Cup. The England team took the knee, but the US team didn't. Indeed. And then he goes on, all of them have happened in response to a single event, the murder of an African-American man. No, that is not what caused it. Was it the spark that lit off the keg of well, that was a torture bed for the beginning of this. Was it the spark that exploded the powder keg? Absolutely. But was that the cause of it? God knows. The cause of it was the exact same as this here. The £30,000 in fraud donations. Except, of course, America does everything far larger than Britain. $10 million! And that is, of course, after the even more famous example of Patricia Cullors, the black woman that Black Lives Matter was founded to benefit, we can only assume, who bought herself $3 million worth of properties, including one $1.4 million Topanga Canyon home, I'll let you guess 3 times what the primary color of the occupants of that neighborhood are, and then further spends $35,000 on a massive-ass security fence around her property. Why? Because fuck you. That's why. Unironically, I'm rich now, and you, filthy bastards, will not step 1 foot onto my property. I worked hard to earn this, you must understand. It is beautiful, isn't it? Build a wall, but only around me. Everywhere else, we can have open borders, of course. Natürlich. Aye. But more interestingly than all of this, right? Because everyone pretty much realized quite quickly that Black Lives Matter was a scam, ever since they started raising millions of dollars, and yet George Floyd's family received none of it. In fact, none of the black people whose causes they claimed to be championing ever saw so much as a dime from Black Lives Matters. One would think that some bells would start to be ringing at some point, but no. And again, it is because it was a political cause, not one of charity or realism. However, there were some other interesting things. This is one of those things that have been attempted to be somewhat memory hold, which is what this is. It's like, oh, we all did it. This was a silly case of everyone. We all went a little bit mad. No. We didn't all go a little bit mad. I didn't say screw your freedoms, that was Arnold Schwarzenegger, who of course said screw your freedoms in response to the mask mandates, where he had a little bit of a breakdown, saying that, what was it again? Freedom comes with costs. You only get to have freedom so long as you do what the government says, because that's what freedom truly means, you see. Doing whatever the government wants you to do, whenever the government wants you to do it. That certainly is a fanciful interpretation of freedom, but very well, Mr. Arnold. He was in fact so convinced of this that he doubled down later on, claiming that the only people who couldn't understand his simple point that freedom equals the government telling you what to do, again, fascinating, were the people who would take him out of context. Clickbaiters, people who he described as having freedom inscribed on their flag and not understanding what freedom was. Yes. This statement wasn't particularly popular, and the fact that it kept getting brought up over and over and over and over again eventually saw the actor/politician apologize for it in April 2023. And this is just one element of it. There was also an article earlier this year, I believe, which, what was it? It's time to forgive us, the royal we, again, for our COVID hysteria. We couldn't have known that the pandemic was slightly exaggerated, perhaps just a little pitch. We couldn't have known that mass lockdowns would cause enormous damage to our country's economies. We couldn't have known that we were violating everybody's rights and freedoms when we did this. We simply didn't know. And so, it is time to forgive and forget. No, I don't think it is. I really don't. And there is a difference to be made here. There is a difference between those who are capable of realizing that what they did was evil, like I hope Arnold here. Arnold tweets, sometimes my mouth gets ahead of me. Because I can see, you're in a fiery conversation, right? You really do believe that this entire epidemic is dangerous, and he did donate $1 million of his own money to COVID relief, so he probably did buy into it, and he's like, okay, you've got to wear your mask, otherwise we're all screwed. If he genuinely does believe that the world isn't going to survive until next year unless you double mask it, then you might in your frustration go something like, screw your freedoms. And then even double down on it later, going, no, I was kind of correct. But eventually, over time, hopefully, your brain will reassert itself and go, that was very stupid. That is the optimistic interpretation, at least. The more pessimistic one might be that he's been bombarded with this ever since, and eventually his PR people went, seriously, dude, just apologize. Like, it was really, really dumb, and everyone knows it, and it gets played at you every time you show up anywhere. Just say you're sorry, waffle it back, and, close your hands a little bit together, and let's get on with it, That is the cynical interpretation, and that is the case for a lot of people who still believe that they did nothing wrong. The affirmation like, oh, we, like this entire idea of it wasn't me, it was us, we did this. This was a national thing. No. This was the authoritarian inside of you, the oppressive, evil side of you. This is the side of you that'll throw up the Nazi salute on certain squares if the guy ahead of you is also doing so. This is you following the flock like a sheep. That is what this is. And it was a uniform, lockstep media apparatus that did this and never raised so much as a single question as to the direction in which they were traveling. It is not time to forgive, and it is certainly not time to forget. And I don't think it will be forgotten either, because these were such enormous cultural happenstances that demonstrated so thoroughly to the majority of people just how oppressive the opposition can be when the chips are down, that hopefully it will be a lesson remembered for a very long time. At least as long as human memory goes, maybe 10 years if we're extraordinarily lucky. But yeah, you're going to see a lot more of articles like this, particularly from American sources going up against the election. There will be attempts to justify a resurgent mask mandate, whilst also attempting to kind of just go like, play dumb, like, we didn't know. There's a lot of people who were foolish, lots of experts, we couldn't have known. Call them on their bullshit when you see it, because there's probably going to be quite a lot of it. And hey, at least it'll be simple, seeing as the internet never forgets. Until next time, thank you all very much for watching yet again, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.